It's Monday, October 27th. This is CTV at 6. Here's what's making news tonight. A retail group warns shoplifting has become a crisis for stores. Can the Jays soar in Southern California? We go to LA ahead of Game 3.
The rain clears through by Tuesday afternoon, but a second system looks set to bring wet and windy conditions for Halloween.
Live from our Maritime's News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good evening. Shoplifting, long a costly nuisance, has become a crisis, pushing some owners to the point of closing up. That warning comes from the Retail Council of Canada. Our Callum Smith heard from business owners in the Maritimes demanding harsher penalties.
A security system and surveillance cameras captured two suspects breaking into the Oxford tap room over the summer. Beer and iPads were stolen, but thankfully tills were locked, so no money was lost. Given the stories the general manager has heard from other businesses,
I kind of consider us lucky that it wasn't worse and that didn't do more damage than they did.
But Halifax police say no arrests were made. The general manager says harsher penalties should be imposed for repeat offenders of retail crime.
We just don't want to see our downtowns closed and shuttered, bars on windows. We want our downtowns to be vibrant and safe.
The Retail Council of Canada is again sounding the alarm in an op-ed, saying, quote, retail crime is not just a business problem, it's a national crisis. This is our 911 call.
People are starting to understand that it's a very organized way of stealing. You can do resell through online marketplaces now, where you can sell, unlimited amounts of product,
leading to unsafe working environments and communities, in part because criminals
understand that because of the catch and release nature of the justice system, that you can come in and steal. If you're arrested, you're going to be let go within the matter of a day with little to no conditions. So it's really created that vicious circle.
This has been ongoing for, 42 years that I've been here, actually. Nobody's doing anything about retail crime at all.
The federal Liberals say harsher penalties are coming for organized retail theft, specifically new aggravating factors for sentencing.
These most prolific offenders are able to be granted bail again and again, in some cases 20, 25 times before ultimately being detained pre-trial.
And in previous years, he says sentences could be 30 to 45 days. Now 3 to 10 days is more common. Now, Todd, the Retail Council of Canada says, well, budgets are tight. Municipalities need to look at investing in beat cops again to start patrolling business districts. Todd.
Callum Smith starting us off in the north end of Halifax in the Hydrostone District tonight. Thank you. All right, let's make this a CTV web poll. We're asking this question. Should there be tougher penalties for shoplifting? Your options are yes, tougher penalties would deter shoplifters. No, current penalties seem reasonable, or it depends on the nature of shoplifting. Trust me, the poll is there. It is at our website, ctvnewsatlantic.ca. The family of a teenage boy stabbed to death at a Halifax mall last year described their loss to a youth judge in court today. The mother and sister of Ahmed Al-Marak said they are broken and their lives are empty without him. They were speaking at the sentencing hearing for the teen who pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. 3 other teens were charged in the group attack. Al-Marak's brother also wrote a victim impact statement describing his brother and their pain since his death. The teen, whose identity is protected by a publication ban, apologized today, saying it was the biggest mistake of his life. An emergency alert had people in the Halifax suburb of Waverley sheltering in place for about 30 minutes this morning. The alert was issued at 8:30, and it warned people police were responding to a dangerous person with a firearm barricaded in a home on Waverley Road. The alert was canceled. About half an hour later, a man was taken into custody. And online, a woman has been charged with attempted murder after a senior was badly injured in Woodstock. We have details on this story at our website, ctvnewsatlantic.ca. Former Nova Scotia Justice Minister and Lunenburg West MLA Becky Drought has resigned from the PC party. Drought, who has served as Education Minister and most recently as Attorney General and Justice Minister, announced she will sit as an independent. The move comes after she was dropped from cabinet during a shuffle last week. In exchange, Drought was given the Opportunities and Social Development portfolio, but a PC party staff member told CTV News she declined that offer. In a statement on her Facebook page, Drought says the move, as an independent, will allow her to focus more closely on her constituents. There's a live look at Peggy's Cove right now, 9 degrees as the sun goes down, 5 minutes after 6 o'clock. Let's bring in Kaylin Mitchell. And we understand there's going to be plenty of rain along the coastlines and a lot of other spots in the region.
Yeah, it already is raining and pouring in some areas, which is a little bit tough to believe when we saw that such a beautiful view at Peggy's Cove. But Peggy's Cove right now, Halifax County and western areas of Nova Scotia in a little bit of a break when it comes to this rainy weather system. Those who move through tonight, some of the bands of rain are expected to wrap back towards that part of the Maritimes. Now, we do have some warnings and some special weather statements in effect. We have rainfall warnings out for Guysborough County and Pictou County. The rainfall warnings for the east of Nova Scotia saying in some cases that the rainfall totals could approach 100 millimeters. I already have some viewer reports in Guysborough County of some areas that have received over 80 millimeters of rain, so that 100 millimeters looking very likely as wet weather continues to come down. The areas underneath special weather statements, which includes the southeast New Brunswick, northern Nova Scotia, the Annapolis Valley of Nova Scotia, Antigonish County, as well as the eastern half of Halifax County could all pick up totals between 20 and 50 millimeters of rain. Here's a look at the potential for additional rainfall amounts to come as we continue to move through this evening, tonight, and into Tuesday morning. And you can see a fairly widespread 10 to 40 millimeters expected in that part of the Maritimes. Let's take a closer look at the timing of this rain and which areas will be at highest risk of downpours as we make our way through this evening and tonight. So this evening, the risk of downpours highest in Cape Breton, in eastern areas of Nova Scotia, around the east of Prince Edward Island and into the southeastern corner of New Brunswick. But moving towards and past midnight, you can see that rain starts to fill back in towards the southwest of Nova Scotia. So during the overnight hours, or late tonight and during the overnight, the risk of downpours will then include the Annapolis Valley in Nova Scotia, all of Cumberland, Colchester counties, Hants County, and into the eastern half of Halifax County. By early Tuesday morning, this rain is expected to have diminished to areas of lighter rain and showers, which will then continue to come to an end as we move into and through Tuesday afternoon. So I'll update you on this, and we're also going to talk about Hurricane Melissa when I'm back a little bit later on, Todd.
Posing lots of trouble for Jamaica. Yes, we'll talk about that a little later in the show in the full forecast. Thank you. And the rain will certainly be welcome in the Maritimes. Wells are still dry and mandatory conservation is in place for parts of Nova Scotia. CTV's Jonathan McGuinness reports.
Chris Napier is having a foot valve replaced today. It's not the only issue he's had recently with his well.
A few weeks back, we did have it go dry for a few days. That's the first time in 5 years for me that's gone dry.
After a few days, the well filled up naturally.
I guess it was a pretty dry summer. It's the driest that I can remember being here for the last 5 years.
I'm surprised there hasn't been more for sure.
Plumber Mike Ferguson has been responding to a lot of calls lately for dry wells in the Williamswood, Sambro, Ketch Harbor area. But given the dry conditions, he expected to be busier.
Over the last couple of weeks, I seem to be getting phone calls, but over the summer, not as much as I did last summer.
The situation with the city water supply at Lake Major hasn't changed much despite some recent rainfall.
So Lake Major's received approximately 40 millimeters of rain in the past 7 days, but unfortunately it still is very low.
Not nearly enough for Halifax Water to lift mandatory water conservation measures that have been in place since September 10th.
We need hundreds of millimeters of rain at this point.
The utility has seen a 10% decrease in consumption since the order was put in place. No fines have yet been issued to anyone for not following the guidelines. Todd Brittany Smith says as far as she can remember, this is the longest Halifax Water has had mandatory conservation measures in place, and it could be a while yet with Lake Major still 1.5 meters below its normal level. Todd.
That was John in Halifax at Halifax Water for us. A psychiatric unit dedicated to youth is being added to the St. John Regional Hospital. The province is spending millions to improve services for young people who are struggling. More now from CTV's Avery McRae.
Anywhere from 80 to 120 young New Brunswickers are admitted to hospital each year because of struggles with mental health. That's why the province is spending $6.3 million to build a unit dedicated to them at the St. John Regional Hospital.
We can help them earlier on so we can prevent crises from happening later on in life, which can end up being more costly or more tragic.
The 5-bed inpatient psychiatry unit will provide immediate specialized trauma-informed treatment and is a first of its kind in St. John. Young patients requiring hospitalization for psychiatric needs are currently either admitted to regular pediatric units, adult units, or other facilities in the province. Stays could be as little as 2 weeks or last upwards of 6 months.
For a child to have reached that crisis point that they require admission to hospital for them to be managed and supported really indicates that their situation has come to the point that there is a lengthy, plan involved, both in stabilizing these children for whatever reason that brought them to hospital, but also ensuring that we have a supportive plan in place prior to their discharge.
That plan post-hospital stay is a critical element to the unit's success, and it's something officials will hope will lessen the rise in crime, drug, and homelessness trends across the province.
These patients, when left on their own devices in the community, would get into drug use, crystal meth being our #1 challenge right now. And as young as 10-year-olds are coming out with suicide attempts. So, and this is not something that develops over a day or two.
Which is why the health minister is honing in on the importance of the planned post-hospital stay.
The critical part is to get them through that acute part and then give them the tools, the counseling, sometimes medications, long-term follow-up, until they no longer need specialized inpatient care.
Hospital officials say a section of the regional will be renovated to make room for the youth psychiatric unit, but there is no timeline on when patients will begin being admitted. Avery McRae, CTV News, St. John.
And today we got a closer look at the biggest healthcare construction project Cape Breton has seen in a generation. And CTV's Ryan McDonald tells us the work is still years from completion.
The grounds next to the Cape Breton Regional Hospital are a major construction zone with 3 new buildings in various stages of development.
We have a new cancer center that have 2 linear accelerators, multiple chemo bays.
This 7-story structure will eventually be a new clinical services building, home to a new emergency department, operating rooms, a critical care department, and 72 new inpatient beds. Inside the new cancer center next door, the idea is for it to be bright and spacious and to house the kind of technology that would allow specialists to treat more patients here rather than off-island.
The thoracic, surgeons, oncologists will actually come to Cape Breton and see our patients rather than our patients having to travel to Halifax in the future.
The Cancer Care Center should be open to see its first patient in late 2027.
The timeline for completion of the clinical services building is less clear. The project director says about 150 tradespeople, the majority of them local, were on site today, but as many as 350 plus will be working here during peak construction.
It's like a giant Lego with a million pieces, and every little piece has to be put together by a human being.
For a bit more context on the size and scope of this, project proponents say that this is the single biggest healthcare-related build the island has seen since construction of the Cape Breton Regional Hospital itself, which was completed 30 years ago in 1995.
It's so important from a recruitment perspective to make sure that our new physicians, our new nurses actually have state-of-the-art facilities.
The back of the property is home to a new energy center, which will heat and cool the other new builds. As for anticipated challenges going forward,
there's a lot of unique, skilled trades that we may need. We have HVAC, electrical. We actually have some of those trades, but not maybe to this magnitude and scale.
Still, those overseeing this nearly $500 million expansion say things are more or less on track, even if the entire project is still a few years away from being complete. Ryan McDonald, CTV News, Sydney.
Oh, you may have seen the national news earlier, which talked about the latest back and forth on trade between Canada and the U.S. Donald Trump's intention to tack an additional 10% trade tariff on our Canadian goods as businesses around here trying to decipher what feels like a bad case of deja vu. Here's CTV's Nick Moore.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not shocked anymore.
James McKenna says there's no rhyme or reason to the U.S. trade war's day-to-day developments. The president of Glenwood Kitchen Limited in Shediac has spent much of today trying to pinpoint how another 10% tariff from Trump will factor into what has already been announced.
But we have no timelines. We have no more information than that. I have customers calling me today saying, hey, what do we charge our customers? And I can't tell them any answer. So the end result is our customers in the U.S. are getting frustrated by this whole process. They're not upset with us as a Canadian company, but they are upset that they can't get information.
That's really not our plan A. We're into now plan B and plan C.
Ron Marcolin is Divisional VP of Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters and says Trump's weekend announcement still does not have much clarity as of tonight.
Even though this particular extra 10% isn't signed into as an executive order as we speak, we don't know if in fact that's going to come down. But again, it's very unfortunate.
At the center of Trump's weekend announcement was the U.S. president's anger over an anti-tariff ad featuring a 1987 speech from Ronald Reagan that was funded by the Ontario provincial government. Former New Brunswick Premier Brian Gallant says Canadians will appreciate the advertisement and its message.
But my only advice would be to ensure that it's always in lockstep on where things are at between the two countries, where Canada, the federal government, is trying to take things and where they believe things are at. So maybe that was the case here, but maybe not.
Meanwhile, Glenwood Kitchen Limited has been making the shift to focus on the regional market and other markets as they become available.
Right now, our U.S. business to us after January 1st, I think will completely end because it's too hard for us to plan.
Especially with Donald Trump declaring that he has no interest in talking with Canada anytime soon. Nick Moore, CTV News, Fredericton.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
People living in a PEI trailer park successfully fought to keep their spots a year ago. Now, once again, they're being told they'll have to find somewhere else to live. CTV's Josh Smith is in Summerside.
Another notice, another heartbreak at Evergreen Village.
The notice we got on Friday was the official eviction notice. When the letter came on the door and my kids were home and they saw it, and to watch my kids just like crumble was pretty rough.
57 homes, nearly 200 people now facing another deadline to leave.
This is our home. This is what we've worked for. This is what we came to the island here to enjoy life, not getting kicked around like football.
Just over a year ago, the landlord gave residents the option to buy their lot for $40,000 or move out. The province announced they'd step in to help purchase the park.
I'm happy with the direction it's going, and I'm quite confident that we're going to see the end of it here now before Christmas.
But today, in a statement to CTV News, the province said the property owner did suggest a sale price, but argued against the request for an independent fair market evaluation of the property, saying an independent appraisal would not accurately reflect the true value of the land due to its low revenues. Province is encouraging residents to contact Renting PEI and PEI Rental Office for guidance and support.
I don't think our unit, our home, will survive a move anyway. There's nowhere to go. We love it here in our little corner. I love my neighbors. Everything is accessible. It's perfect. This is set up for families, and it shouldn't be destroyed.
So I'd be really upset. It's a great community here. Everybody's really nice to each other. I have great friends here. I wouldn't want to leave that behind.
Summerside's mayor says the city's options are limited.
We can't go in and buy all of these parks. We just simply couldn't afford it and put in all of the proper infrastructure. Again, the way I look at it is we're basically trying to figure out whatever we can do to help. And to be there supporting residents.
Do you move your house? Do you completely abandon your house? And for others, leave the loan that you have on it and be stuck with this debt and no asset for it? It's pretty scary for everyone.
CTV did manage to reach the park's owner, but he declined to comment. For now, residents can only hope for a solution that lets them stay in their homes. Josh Smith, CTV News, Summerside.
We'll take our first break of the evening. More rain and showers to come tonight. Kaylin has the details in the full forecast. We'll go to LA ahead of Game 3 of the World Series. But first, a deep dive on a coming attraction.
We take people literally on a journey from the tide pool, from the shoreline, all the way to the deep sea.
We get a look at a new marine center designed to entertain and educate visitors about life in our waters. That's next. For years, an aquarium has been identified as something Haligonians want for their city. Today, we got a look inside a new marine discovery center set to open in the coming months. Our guide is Emma Convey.
So here we see the blue whale swimming into a school of krill. That's main food. And here it does what we call lunge feeding.
This is a blue whale eating and digesting krill. It's shown through augmented reality when the lens focuses on this 18-meter blue whale skeleton. This is part of the new BT Center for Marine Biodiversity at Dalhousie University.
We take people literally on a journey from the tide pool, from the shoreline, all the way to the deep sea. And you see the different habitats of the species that live there sort of sequentially. And you're diving down and experiencing it for yourself.
30 exhibits and tanks with dozens of live species from waters around Nova Scotia. Their mission is to build ocean literacy.
Unique here is that we're also interfacing with the research done here at Dal. We have students and others interacting with visitors, telling them about their research. We're learning about some of the conservation solutions we're building here at Dalhousie to protect our biodiversity and to actively restore it.
This project has been in the works for decades. Now made possible by an $8.2 million donation from Ross Beatty. He's from Vancouver and previously invested in the Beatty Biodiversity Museum at UBC. Given its success, he saw value in one on the East Coast.
Profiling, something that is important to the East Coast and also very, very strong research center in Dalhousie, which is marine science. And so a Marine Biodiversity Research Center here just made a lot of sense to me.
Opening doors for students, both for employment and research.
But we also have a lot of opportunities for new programming, say training people how to take care of animals, for example, interacting with the community, opportunities for science communication, and I think also tons and tons of opportunities for new kinds of research.
Operated by the Discovery Center, it will give visitors the chance to see regional species live. Lobsters, mackerel, eels, and deep-sea animals like an octopus.
An important area to inspire youth to study and become scientists and innovators themselves. So we see this enabled by our partnership with Dow, getting more kids involved in ocean science, even more so.
The center will open to the public starting in December, operating Thursday through to Sunday. And then during peak tourism season in May, it'll be Wednesday through to Sunday. Todd.
All right, Emma, that will be popular from the newest attraction in Halifax on the Dow campus tonight. Thank you. Time for a break. Still to come, blustery and cool. That's Tuesday's recipe. Kaylin has all the details when we come back after these messages. Well, that is a wet night in Moncton right now. Currently 9 degrees, almost 6:30 as we bring in Kaylin Mitchell. Kaylin, if I'm sounding a little raspy, that's because I'm struggling with a bit of a head and chest cold. I know a lot of Maritimers are.
I'm sorry to hear that, Todd.
Little unsettled, much like the weather.
A little under the weather, as many parts of the Maritimes are going to be as we move through tonight, as we continue to contend with rain. But we're going to start off with an update on Hurricane Melissa.
Okay, so I was listening to some of the reporting about what's headed towards Jamaica in Melissa. The worst storm to ever hit Jamaica is what they're forecasting.
Yep, could be.
700 millimeters of rain?
Some areas, yes, and then there's the other impacts with it as well. Let's take a look at what's going on with this storm system. And when you talk about how we categorize hurricanes, we're talking about the Saffir-Simpson wind scale. The damage potential with a Category 5 hurricane is described as catastrophic. And that's just with the winds themselves, and that's in the vicinity of the landfall point. And that means that even structures that haven't been specifically designed to withstand hurricane force winds could be looking at near and total collapse. There are, of course, other impacts, including extensive damage to infrastructure, utility infrastructure, because of these type of powerful storms, and then the water hazards, which can bring in more widespread life-threatening conditions. And that includes that heavy, heavy rain that Todd mentioned, several hundred millimeters of rain coming down from parts of Jamaica, and the potential for storm surge as well. So Melissa, Category 5, it is forecast to make a likely landfall in the west of Jamaica on Tuesday as either a Category 5 or Category 4 hurricane. But the category difference at that point in time won't make much of a difference to the overall impacts of that storm on that country. From there, late on Tuesday or potentially into Wednesday morning. It's expected to make a second landfall, this time in eastern Cuba. And they're concerned about impacts from winds, storm surge, and heavy rain as well. Speaking of the rain, there's more to come with this weather system. It's been a slow mover, so they've already been into some periods of heavy rain. Much more to come as we continue over the next couple of days. It's possible that parts of Jamaica pick up an additional few hundred millimeters of rain, and then high rainfall amounts expected as well through eastern areas of Cuba, especially around the southern coastline, and really increases that risk of flooding. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the long-range outlook for Melissa and what's coming up for us on Halloween. Once Melissa moves north, the path of the remnants of that storm are expected to hold east of the Maritimes, but it does look like it will pass east of us at the end of this week on Friday. At the same time, a low-pressure system is moving in out of the eastern seaboard of the United States with a weather front along with it. It is possible in these type of situations that that front grabs some of the moisture that's being brought northward with the remnants of Melissa and brings it up along that front. So right now for Friday, for Halloween Friday, it's a wet and windy forecast, and if some of that tropical moisture gets caught up in this weather system, we could be looking at some periods of heavy rain and downpours on that day. So Friday right now, I know everybody was already paying close attention to the forecast for it. Just one more reason to keep your eyes on the forecast, updates for that Friday forecast throughout this week. The best chance we have right now for Friday's weather is that it moves through the worst of the conditions, that is Friday morning and Friday afternoon, and maybe parts of the Maritimes catch a break for Friday evening for trick-or-treating. But we're so far out right now that we can't really say with any certainty that that's going to be the situation. So if you're planning for Halloween, like I am, because I was supposed to go out with my kid for Halloween as well, plan on rainproofing those costumes as best you can. Speaking of rainproofing, we have rain coming down across parts of the Maritimes for this evening and tonight. Still risk of downpours with it. Eastern areas of Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, northern areas of Nova Scotia, and then the Annapolis Valley as we move into the overnight hours. As we head into Tuesday morning, that's going to wind down to some areas of lighter rain and showers, with the bulk of that wet weather then wrapping up as we move into and through Tuesday afternoon. Low temperatures for tonight around the Maritimes, mostly mid to high single digits, except between 0 and 3 degrees in the northwestern corner of New Brunswick, where they see a little bit of clearing. They stay out of that wet weather. Highs in the north of New Brunswick for tomorrow between 9 and 11, with central and southern parts of the province with highs between 9 and 11 degrees. Prince Edward Island on Tuesday with high temperatures near 10. Eastern areas of Nova Scotia with high temperatures between 10 and 12 degrees for tomorrow. Northern and central parts of the province with high temperatures between 10 and 12 degrees. And in the southwest of Nova Scotia, the high temperatures in the low teens. Taking a look at the 7-day outlook for New Brunswick, looking towards the end of this week. Cloudy periods for Thursday, a rainy and windy forecast right now for Halloween Friday. Cloudy periods follow for the weekend on Saturday. Mix of sun and cloud on Sunday. Don't forget, clocks go back. And Monday, a mix of sun and cloud. For Nova Scotia in the forecast, we have a little bit of clearing through the middle part of this week. Mix of sun and cloud Wednesday and Thursday. Temperatures on the cooler side. Rainy and windy weather in the forecast for Friday, followed by cloudy periods on Saturday. Clocks go back on Sunday, and then Monday, a mix of sun and cloud. And for Prince Edward Island in the outlook, fair weather conditions, so cool for Wednesday and Thursday. Conditions turning rainy and windy for Friday. That's followed by cloudy periods on the weekend with the clocks going back, and a mix of sun and cloud for the start of next week. Todd.
All right, we'll see you at the end of the show. Can the Blue Jays get a jump on the World Series in Southern California? We will go to Los Angeles. Then, entertainment news on the scene.
I'm Katie Kelly in Yarmouth, where this year's Music Nova Scotia Music and Industry Awards were handed out. I'm going to have all the highlights coming up for you on The Scene.
Okay, so we're back at it tomorrow. Virgin Radio's 5K a day. We're going to give you a chance to win that $5,000 that we give away daily.
Keywords starting with us at 7 a.m.
And around 7:30 is your shot at a $100 gas card. Good luck.
Welcome back. Have you been following the World Series? Of course you have. So you know tonight is the big Game 3. With the series tied at a game apiece, the scene has shifted west to Los Angeles, and that's where we find CTV's Rahim Ladani, who is covering the Jays. He is at Dodger Stadium. So next few games are right where you're standing, but playing on the road, that has not been a problem for the Jays so far in the playoffs. Hoping that streak continues.
Hey, Todd, good to chat with you. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the Jays have been dominant on the postseason, on the road in the postseason so far. They've won 3 of the 5 games they've played, 2 in Seattle, 1 in New York. This one feels a little different. Not to say that the Blue Jays can't rise to the moment, but the atmosphere here inside Dodger Stadium is going to be electric, and it's going to be very favorably for the Los Angeles Dodgers. I mean, just about every other person that we see in LA is wearing their Dodger blue, whether it's a jersey, a hat, or a sweater. This is an invested fan base, a passionate fan base, and they kind of have a bit of bravado about them after Game 2. It kind of feels like they've got their swagger back. After Game 1, certainly Blue Jays fans were feeling good about themselves, but in Game 2, the Dodgers just really showed why they were the favorites coming into the World Series. But it doesn't mean that the Blue Jays can't rise to this moment. We've seen them do it throughout the regular season and in the playoffs. Don't forget, they were down 2-0 in the ALCS against the Seattle Mariners, and they're not down in this series. This is a 1-1 series. Now the Jays need to rise up to the moment. They can do it, and they're hoping it all begins with Max Scherzer on the mound.
That's a good point you make, because they've had a very strong playoff run. They are, of course, the defending World Series champions, so that swagger comes naturally in Hollywood there. Jays manager John Schneider has said he sees this as 7 one-game series. Well, we know they need to win at least more to get that back home, and that's obviously important to them.
Without a doubt. And I think that goes to the fact that the Jays aren't getting too high or too low. They haven't done that all postseason. Even when they were down 0-2 against in the ALCS against the Mariners, the Jays were very even keel. And so what they're doing is they're flushing Game 2 against the Dodgers, and they're focused on Game 3, and that's the mindset that you need to have. In fact, with Max Scherzer on the mound today, John Schneider said he wants him to kind of be even keel and take the home crowd advantage out of it, because if you remember, Scherzer was a Dodger back in 2021, so he knows this ballpark. He knows how to play it and manage the home crowd, and I think that'll be a big part of it. And so you need to just focus on the task at hand and not really let the magnitude of the situation infiltrate your game plan, because if you do that, that's when you get away from your game and things can unravel quickly, and then the home crowd gets on top of you. And so if you stick to the plan, and that's what the Jays have done all season long, I think they'll be in a good chance. And they get a big boost tonight as well, because Bo Bichette will be back in the lineup. He pinch hit in Game 2, but he should be back at second base tonight.
Even keel for Scherzer. That's a tall order sometimes. You saw him getting emotional earlier when Schneider tried to suggest he come out of the game. This has been tough for Jays fans this whole playoffs in terms of one game they'll run up the score, the next the bats go quiet. You never know which team is going to show up on any given night.
They don't make it easy for you as a Jays fan, right? I mean, the heart, it's tough. It's tough in playoff baseball, no doubt about that. We have seen a lot of Jays games where they get down early and then they kind of find their stride. That's been typical of Blue Jays baseball. And it'll be interesting to see how the bats respond tonight. Do they get on the board early, or is it going to be a late game heroics like we saw with George Springer in Game 7 of the ALCS? The one place where the Jays have found a lot of success is when they get traffic on the bases. When they're not hitting home runs, by playing small ball and turning that lineup over, that's where they found success, and that's what they're going to need to do against the Dodgers. The Dodgers have Tyler Glasnow on the mound, and he is an impressive pitcher. He's pitched 13 innings in the postseason. He has 18 strikeouts, only 1 earned run. They want to get him out of the game early and force the Dodgers to use their bullpen. If they do that and they're successful in that strategy, they can have successful on the scoreboard to win this game. If Glasnow goes deep, that spells trouble for the Toronto Blue Jays. And just one more note, Todd, to mention, in that in terms of the Blue Jays bullpen, John Schneider says everyone is available and will be available for all 3 games here in LA.
You mentioned it a little earlier about a lot of people you're seeing in town wearing Dodger blue. That's a city where there's plenty of distractions in Los Angeles. But what do they know of the Jays? These are 2 teams that really don't see a lot of each other through the season. And, you know, they're coming into their ballpark. And for many fans, you know, they're sort of an unknown entity.
You're absolutely right. I will say the Dodgers fan base is pretty knowledgeable. Contrary to baseball pundits that we saw ahead of the World Series, where they were saying Dodgers in 4, maybe 5. They weren't really giving the Blue Jays a chance. On the ground and talking to locals here, they respect the Blue Jays and the roster they've put together immensely. They've commended the pitching. They've commended Vladdy's bat. They know that this could be a matchup between Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Shohei Ohtani, two of the biggest names in baseball. And it'll be interesting to see if that comes to fruition tonight, right? We haven't really seen that through the first two games.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens here tonight. But there certainly is a lot of respect for the Blue Jays team. It'll be interesting as well to see how many Jays fans we see. We've seen a couple here and there rocking the hats, but certainly they're in the minority, especially when you compare it to what the crowd looked like in Seattle, that home crowd, right? This will be a tougher atmosphere, and we'll see what happens for Game 3 tonight.
Raheem, thank you for that. Enjoy the game. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Todd.
In health and medical news, Canadian doctors say data shows more treatment is needed for youth battling opioid use and disorders that come with it. CTV's Amanda Debison has more in tonight's edition of The Lifeline.
There is a call out for urgent action as more youth are reportedly using opioids. According to an editorial published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal this weekend, a new survey found a dramatic rise in students using prescription painkillers for non-medical reasons. Co-author Dr. Sean Kelly says the data is shocking. He says early opioid use often leads to addiction, requiring treatment with either methadone or Suboxone. The problem is that many primary care providers aren't comfortable prescribing those medications to adolescents and teens. The University of Toronto is setting up an emergency fund to help researchers facing unexpected funding losses following massive cuts from U.S. federal research agencies. Those losses came after the Trump administration targeted agencies like the National Institutes of Health for savings, leaving dozens of U of T researchers with sudden shortfalls. The school's VP of Research says the fund will help keep projects going while the researchers look for other sources of support. Finally, if you're feeling stressed out, it's time to head outside. That's what healthcare providers have been saying for years, with many in the U.S. now actually issuing formal prescriptions for patients to spend time outdoors. For example, a program at the Mayo Clinic focuses on practices that usually aren't part of conventional medicine, including meditation, acupuncture, massage, and nutrition. Its program director says study after study shows humans were wired to be out in nature. With Health and Medical News, I'm Amanda Debison for The Lifeline.
Wrap for another Nova Scotia Music Week. As Katie Kelly shows us, this year's event in Yarmouth had it all. They had packed showcases, late night jams, and of course, they gave out lots of hardware.
After 3 full days of celebration, Sunday morning wrapped up this year's Nova Scotia Music Week with a brunch honoring the best in local music and industry talent.
I can't believe that we made it through the weekend, but we just had all of our awards, and it was a wonderful morning.
The show was held at the Rod Grand Hotel, where there were incredible performances and 31 well-deserved awards handed out.
So award is Rock of the Year and also Showcase Songwriter of the Year.
Among the big winners, Mo Kenny.
Yeah, it was really nice. There's a reason why I've lived in Nova Scotia more than life. Felt very supported by the community here. Most of these musicians are my friends. It's really lovely, and it feels really nice to be recognized by all these people that I love so much.
KO scored wins for DJ of the Year and Hip Hop Recording of the Year.
I'm super elated. I'm very grateful for this. This makes me very happy. Not gonna lie.
He says it's the sense of community that keeps him coming back.
It feels like a big old family reunion every time. You know what I mean? It's just so much love, and I love that we as creatives can come out here and really celebrate each other. You know, I think that's what's really profound about this.
The Halifax Jazz Festival also took home 2 awards, continuing its legacy of showcasing East Coast talent on the international stage.
We won Live Sector Award, but the Artist Development Award, I think, is what really means the most to us. Halifax Jazz has been around for 40 years, and we're very proud of putting Nova Scotia musicians on that stage next to some of the biggest stars in the world. And to be seen doing that is really meaningful.
And one of the most moving moments, when Sarah Martin was recognized with the Sound Tech and Production Award, celebrating her trailblazing work behind the scenes.
It means a lot to me as like a trans person in this industry to get representation on the tech side of things. There are more and more trans technicians that are popping up who are younger, and it's really great. And I feel very honored to get to represent those technicians.
Executive Director Allegra Swanson says this year was a milestone one for representation.
It was really amazing to see so many folks from our trans community recognized today on the stage because it's such a huge part of our community here.
Industry firsts to unforgettable performances. This year's Nova Scotia Music Week celebrated the talent, diversity, and spirit that make our music community one of a kind.
It just is wonderful to have all of it come together after months and months, and I am so glad to see it in action when your planning turns into magic on stage.
With Aaron and Peter.
Join us tomorrow for our annual Halloween giveaway. Win your costume with us.
And win $1,000 with us. $1,000 minute tomorrow morning at 7.
On the markets, the Dow opened the trading week up 337 points. On Wednesday, Amazon is expected to report earnings, but before that, the tech giant may be cutting its workforce. BNN Bloomberg's Marilla Fernandez has the details.
There is a report tonight that Amazon will be cutting 30,000 jobs and that it starts tomorrow. Reuters is reporting management jobs are being slashed, and the cut represents about 10% of Amazon's corporate staff. The last time Amazon cut this deep was in late 2022 and early 2023, when it shed 27,000 jobs. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is up a fraction to 71.48. West Texas Intermediate crude is up to 61.58. Western Canadian Select is down 27 cents to 48.72. And the TSX lost 77 points today to end the day at 30,275. Those are your business headlines. I'm Marilla Fernandez.
Now to the weather deck. The dark weather deck. Galen Mitchell with one more look. Galen?
Yeah, not raining yet here in the north end of Halifax, but that rain is starting to fill in towards the west of Nova Scotia, so it will be a little bit later on. Let's take a look at a viewer picture for tonight. So last week we talked about if you had binoculars or telescope, you could spot this comet Lemon in the night sky just after sunset. Here's another great picture that was sent in to me. This one from David Simard from St. Cecile in New Brunswick. I want to thank David very much for taking the time to share this with us. Again, that's Comet Lemon there. And St. Cecile for tomorrow, mix of sun and cloud, cool day, high temperature near 10 degrees, bit blustery. Winds out of the northeast, could still have some gusts up around 30, 40 kilometers per hour. Day planner for tomorrow across the Maritime region to start the day. Some rain and some showers left around parts of Prince Edward Island, southern areas of New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. Now moving into the afternoon, most of that wet weather will be coming to an end. The sun breaks through across the northern half of New Brunswick for tomorrow, but conditions remain a bit in the cloudier side for Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia. Most of the high temperatures on Tuesday, high single digits and low teens. Todd.
That was a great photo.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow, Galen. Finally for us tonight, it may be seeing fewer Canadians, but the most magical place on Earth remains one of the most popular. Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom retained its title as the world's most visited theme park last year. The Orlando park saw more than 17.8 million visitors. That's according to the Theme Entertainment Association's latest Global Experience Index. Disneyland Park, that's the one in California, it came a close second with 17.3 million, followed by Universal Studios Japan, Tokyo Disneyland, and Shanghai Disneyland were following on that list. The Mighty Mouse indeed. Still rains. That's our look at the day here at home. Bruce Frisco has our late newscast, and CTVNewsAtlantic.ca has updates anytime. I'm Todd Battis. Hope to see you here tomorrow. Good night.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast.